Hey folks, welcome to another Broken Meeple review, and today we're looking at an interesting new family game from Board&Dice, Traintopia. Yes, I know, the irony is not lost on me. It's like, Luke, you're playing a game with train in the title. Are you sure this is wise? It's like, yes, I know. Not a fan of train games, but honestly, as you'll find out, it really doesn't matter because this one doesn't necessarily have to be a train game. It could be just about anything else. But yeah, I know that me and train games don't tend to sit well. They make me a little bit uncomfortable. Yeah, really don't like I don't like trains as a mode of transportation. I don't like them as a concept. I don't like them as a game genre. Yeah, I don't like trains. But Traintopia, I'm not going to hold it against this one because I wasn't really expecting it to be a heavy train game, obviously. This is a gateway level, I would say, family weight game where it's kind of like a Carcassonne with a bit of drafting is the best way to describe it. You have tiles that you will lay down to create this little network in front of you, essentially like a little map network a la Carcassonne. You can place them however you like though, except that the tracks must link up in a logical way. But it kind of had a Honshu feel, if you've ever played that little card game, where you don't overlap tiles in here, but you don't have to line them up exactly. You can kind of do a half lineup, and it allows for some interesting configurations. But each round you are drafting anywhere from like 2 to 4 elements from the middle of the board, which will consist of more tiles, but also some wooden pieces that allow you to score either immediately or at the end of the game. These can be tourists or commuters to score instantly based on what you have on the track or nearby it, or these can be mailbags and trains in order to score at the end of the game for various score reasons. And it's very straightforward. I mean, you literally take it in turns to draft a single piece, and then you keep going around in order until all but one is left, and then you bring out a new card that tells you what elements are available to draft, start player moves on, and you just carry on, and every time you draft something, you stick it on your little network. That's pretty much it. It's really not that difficult. The only little bit on the side is you can spend money tokens that you find on some of your tiles to do a bonus action, which is either grab a bonus tile, which is typically the one that you do, change the color of a commuter, because you've got different colors of commuters that score based on different types of terrain, which is another useful skill, I'll admit. And then the one that nobody really cares about, which is the ability to change your objective card, which is just another way of scoring. But we'll get on to that a little bit later. But yeah, dirt simple overall. Question is, as a gateway game, is this worth grabbing? And as much as I would love to see more of these sort of games rather than 3.5-hour monstrosities, that doesn't mean that every family game is necessarily a great one. So is this great? Who knows? Let's look at it in more detail. So, with this, duration. This one is pretty good on that front, actually. Now, I've only had a couple of cheeky plays of this in the physical version, but I have played it on Tabletopia. It's on there at the moment. You can play it for free. But with this one, it claims 30 minutes on the box, and I would say that it's pretty accurate, actually. On Tabletopia, it's going to take you longer because of the whole platform and moving things with a point-and-click mouse, but when we played it in the physical version, 30 minutes was actually pretty accurate, especially for a 2-player game. For a 4-player game, you're kind of looking more on the 45 minutes route, but 30 to 45 minutes. This should not take you longer than 45 minutes unless you have got a player that you should never trust to play board games ever with their analysis paralysis. But yeah, it really isn't a difficult game to learn, nor is it a long one to play. 30 to 45 minutes, that's exactly the kind of length I want for a gateway level game. Now, in terms of teaching the game, again, that doesn't take very long because I just gave you a pretty much full overview of the game in less than 5 minutes. And that was just breezing through it. But to teach you all the rules, not difficult. And if you played something like Carcassonne or Honshu, like I mentioned, or any kind of drafting game, but then you already know half the rules anyway. As long as you understand how to score, which again, it's on a reference card, which everybody gets, okay, great. It's really not difficult it won't take very long to teach the rules, even for new players. So you can happily play this with whoever you like, and you will get a shortish game. Now, ease of play, again, like I've been saying, it's a very straightforward game. There's not a lot of rules in the book. It's, generally laid out nicely with good pictorial examples in it. However, there are some weird things in this rulebook that kind of make me think, okay, what gives? First off, I suppose I'll talk about it now, but there's a token that you have, a train token, and throughout the game you will see 6 of these train tokens. 6 of them will be available to draft. They only give you 5 in the box. Okay, odd. So essentially there is a component error with the fact that it doesn't give you enough trains to go through the entire game. You have to hope that somebody passed on the train in an earlier round. But then also, the thing that I found weird was that the objective cards that I mentioned, if this isn't proof that they are an afterthought in this game, I don't know what is, because the rulebook does not tell you when to score them.
I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Yeah, end game objectives, or objectives are like, oh, make this condition by the end of the game, you score points. Not only is there no rule in the book to tell you how each one works, which they're not that complicated, but still, it would be nice, it's a family weight game, but they don't even tell you to score them in the end game scoring section. What the hell? I was like, seriously. That I found shocking. It proves that the objectives were literally bolted in at the last minute and no one thought to update the rulebook. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're probably like devil's advocate, kind of thinking, well, come on. It's an end game scoring objective. How hard can it be to figure out when to score it? Think about the audience this is for, though. I mean, very colourful, cutesy artwork, 30 to 45 minutes, 12 plus, which seems quite old for this, although we'll get onto that later. This is for families. This is a light game. This is for people who probably have never played board games. So this concept of endgame scoring objectives might not be familiar to a lot of the people who could end up playing this game, and certainly not kids in that. We know what they are because we've played them constantly, but the audience might not. To miss them out in the rulebook is just crazy. How did that get through QT? I don't know. But, QT, was it QC? Quality control, quality testing, whatever you want to call it. But, yeah, little blemishes like that aside, the rules were not difficult to follow. It is a very easy game to learn, just those 2 little blemishes. Now, tactics and strategy, not a lot in the way of either in a sense. I mean, there's no interaction in this game other than the draft. You're drafting these pieces and obviously someone might take something before you. That's all the interaction there is. But the puzzle of trying to figure out how to build your network is fun. It's light, but it's fun. You're building up your little map and thinking, well, hang on, if I take this tile, I can rotate it that way, make the track go this way, it won't block it off. The track's got 6 forest segments on it, so if I get a green commuter this round, I could score right now for that. Do I want to build up a bit more and get a commuter later? Will there be another green commuter later? I don't know. There's only so many out there. And you've also got to think about finishing your tracks and, do I want to finish my track? Do I want a train token? Because when you're drafting, you draft from the whole collection of pieces, tiles and wooden pieces. So when it's your turn, in certain player games, you might only get 2 things around. You're like, well, I could do with the tile, but I could really do with that wooden piece. Which one do I want? And that's probably the best fun out of this, that tense decision making with the draft. Like, can I take that piece and hope that it's going to come back round and nobody else wants it? And that I found pretty cool. And just building up your network is nice and fun, and it's a fairly light game and it flows quite smoothly. But here's where it starts to take a little bit of a dive. The scoring at the end. Now, I've played this many times, on Tabletopia mainly, but it doesn't matter where I've played it. I think that there's a bit of a problem with the scoring in this. And, people can shoot me down, but I've been seeing a consensus on a fair few other people's reviews or, talks about this game. Some people have glossed over it, and I feel that they have glossed over this, but me, I tell it how it is. I don't think it's balanced, because there are 2 things particularly that I do not feel you should care about in the slightest when scoring. One is the objective cards. As I mentioned, they're not even in the rule book. That tells you that they are just a bolt-on effect. And for the most part, they're not even worth the points. There's 1 or 2 cards there which will get you 8 to 10 points. And the 8-point ones are actually quite easy to achieve, I think, and the 10-point one's not that difficult. But, that is a significant objective card. Most of them, though, only give you 5 points. And they're very different in how easy they are to achieve. I mean, there's several that want you to get 8 of a particular train tile on a track. That is not difficult at all. You can easily build that up with tiles. But then there's another one, which I had in my first game, which was you needed each of the 3 different color commuters on 2 separate tracks. That is really hard to achieve for a measly 5 points. And that's the other thing. A typical score is going to land you somewhere between 50 to 75 points. 5 is not a massive deal. I mean, it's nothing to like. I mean, I just find myself ignoring it most of the time. I've never had it be that close that the objective card was the reason that the game was decided. You know, the ticket to ride continuous route 10-point bonus is more significant, I found, in games, and that's a game that scores you 950 points half the time. But here, the objectives I just find you just ignore them half the time. They just really don't make much of a dent. The other thing is the train tokens. You score based on these money tokens, and if you leave them unspent, now this is how the rulebook is written, this is how you interpret the rulebook. If the money is unspent, then you score for each one of them that is laid next to a track, because they're pictured on the tiles. And, you know, so if you've got 4 of them or more on next to a track, you'll get a whopping 10 points, which is a good amount. 2 or 3, you'll get 7, and 1 or less, you'll get none. You'll get 4 points. So 0, 4, and 10. 10 is a decent amount of points. 4, who cares? 0, obviously 0. But you need to spend those money tokens. Why would you not spend them? You can get bonus tiles with cool stuff on them. You can change your commuter to a different colour to score you more points. Those 2 abilities themselves are worth spending the money. You know, top tip, spend the money. Why would you build a train track just to put a single train on it to score a few points later by hindering yourself during it doesn't make sense. And in all the games I've played, everybody else has ignored the train tokens. The only time they got picked in a game was when I deliberately picked them because I wanted to find out if they were any good. They failed miserably. I tried again and they failed miserably. And oh no, I tell a lie, one other person tried it in a 4-player game and it failed miserably. It's just not worth it. So there's a whole chunk of scoring there that I just never see get used, which means when it turns up in the drafting phase, nobody takes the trains. Round after round, the train token is the one left till last unless somebody deliberately wants it. And even then, if I was going for it, I'd pick it last because I know no one else is going to take it. So why? And even then, 4 or more money tokens next to your track. Good luck getting 4 or more money tokens in anything less than a 2-player game. Sorry, anything more than a 2-player game. 2-player game, maybe. But there's not a lot of these money tokens on the tiles. In a 4-player game, getting 4 next to your track and leaving them unspent is next to impossible. Why would you go for it? And even if you try to go for it, unlikely, because everybody nicks the money tokens. So, you know, already we've lost 2 scoring things that don't matter. So how do you get points? Commuters, tourists, and the finish lines. The commuters are great for points. You know, they can get you quite a bit if you've built up the tracks and if you spend money to change the colours. The tourists are really good. If you've got about 6, 7, 8 points next to a track or next to multiple tracks, if you've built your network in that way and you can score multiple tourists, they are great. Definitely like those. Finish lines, though, is the way to go. If you don't complete the track with a station at both ends, the track scores you no points. That is a punch in the gut at the end of the game when you've got this awesome track and you just couldn't find a station. And the game doesn't tell you how many of each symbol is on the tiles, which means that if you end up with a bunch of the stations early on in the game, you won't necessarily know that at the end of the game, they're not going to appear again. So you could be wasting all your time building up a track and never see another station again. That has happened to me. Yeah, it's annoying. But the finish lines score you a lot of points just for simply building the track. But what I do believe is definitely overpowered here, and I know I don't often talk about the balance of points in games, but this is not just my opinion, this is shared thoughts with people I have played with, whether randoms or people I know as friends. The mailbag is too good. The finish lines can score you anywhere between like 3 to 10 points on a regular basis, and the mailbag doubles your points on a finished line. 1 token is worth anywhere from 3 to 10 points for the 1 token, providing you finish the track by the end of the game. That is too powerful, and most rounds you will see 1 mailbag. That's it. Not even every round will you see a mailbag. If you don't end up with at least 1 or 2 of those, you are not going to win this game full stop. Everybody who has won this game has had at least 1 really good track with a mailbag on it, or 2 decent tracks with two mailbags on them. They're just worth so many points, which means, as I said, nobody cares about the train token. Everyone goes for the mailbag. And this is the problem with this game that is the major problem. You know, it's got a lot of good stuff going for it, and there's more to talk about, but I've dwelled on this subject matter because I do think the point system needs a bit of tweaking and some rebalancing, because it's a big off-put when you find that the only reason you're scoring points, or the only care you have, is based on 2 or 3 different things, and like the other 2 or 3 are not even worth it or even caring about. I just ignore them every game now. And that's not a good way for a scoring system to be. But let's move on. Something a bit more positive. Aesthetics. For the most part, pretty cool. The artwork, as you can see, particularly on the cover, is very colourful, very vibrant, and very nice. The tile artwork is a little basic, though. It's more functional than it is, like, you know, pretty to look at. But you build up a little network. There's green, yellow, red. You know, there's colours, and it looks nice. But the weird thing with the aesthetics is that this is a 12-plus game. So you're thinking, well, this is a really simple game. Why is it 12 plus? The tiles are not huge, but the meeples are very small in this, like really small. Yeah, the wooden pieces are nice. You know, the train and mailbags are nice, and the tiles they're decent size. They're good and chunky. I think the tiles themselves are probably the best bit, but you know, it's functional artwork, nothing nobody to speak of. These are very small commuters, though. I mean, I suppose they've got to be small to fit on the tile, but family friendly. I mean, you're going to lose these on occasion. There's danger of like children eating these, you know, toddlers and that. I mean, that's why it's a 12-plus game, but definitely it kind of goes against the whole idea. It's meant to be family friendly when you've got like things you've got to squint on the boards, and you're dealing with grey meeples as a colour as well. Why? I mean, they put yellow, green, and white here. What was red or blue? Was blue like not available? I don't know. It's kind of weird. The other thing that is, you'll notice the insert is a good insert if you were storing a game that was 3 times the size of this. It's got cubby holes for everything. You have spare bags, which I didn't even need to use. That's how little they made a difference. And there's more tiles than this. It's just I've just put the tiles somewhere else so they don't all fall out of the box. But you've got this bag for 15 tiny little meeples. A little bit overkill, but you know, they give you a bag, I'm not going to complain. Tiny little hole for the cards. But you'll notice something that's very Splendor-like about this. The box is way too big. This could have been half a folded, like half the size rulebook, folded in half. It could have been. There is way too much space in this box. And you might be thinking, okay, well maybe it's catering for expansion content. Okay, cool if that's the case, but most of this is just plastic. You know, there's only so many cubbyhold spaces anywhere. I mean, if this is going on for expansions, why is that not a spare cubbyhold? Why is that not the whole length? You know, why is it very restricted? And some of these are quite low down anyway. So you've got a Ticket to Ride size box for a game that could easily have fit in a Carcassonne size box. I think this easily should have just been a Carcassonne size box, a Baron Park size box, and it would have been perfectly fine. But this is just too big. You know, and like I say, we've got plenty enough games to store, but if it doesn't need to be that big, don't make it that big. And if you're thinking, well, what about expansions? Then, well, just make the expansion box bigger and we'll store it in that. You know, it's not difficult. But overall, alright aesthetics. Immersion, I'll briefly go over this one. There's not a lot of it. I mean, it's engaging with the drafting. The turns are pretty quick. You know, if someone drafts a piece, you can instantly get on with your turn. So downtime is kept to a very low minimum, which is good. You know, it's decent positive. But the train theme is not really there. I mean, yeah, they call them commuters, and it's called a train token. You're laying a track, but it could have been a road, could have been a dirt track, could have been a plane travel, it could literally be anything. I mean, it could have been a safari park where the landmarks are animals and you get points based on what animals you have there. I mean, it literally could be any theme. You know, I hate train games. The fact that this is called Traintopia makes no difference. Literally could not care. If anything, it's probably the area of trains that's more enjoyable in the game, which is the whole thing of building the track and having commuters, not all that rubbish about stock investments and all that boring stuff. But yeah, the theme is not really here or there. I mean, it's a family game, it's cutesy theme. People like trains. I know I'm a minority with people who hate trains, but you know, it's going to appeal to some people, not necessarily to me personally, but you know, it's cutesy and fine and fairly abstracted anyway. So you're not getting this because you like trains. So going on to longevity. Longevity is decent enough. I mean, you use pretty much every tile in the game, every game. There's a few different objective cards, but they're not that particularly varied. They're not that interesting. And the bonus tiles, you'll see them all. I mean, you will basically see 90% of the content of this game in the first play. So repeated plays are going to be based on how much the game is enjoyable. And for the most part, the mechanics themselves are good. I know you've heard me rag a bit about the endgame scoring, but the fact that it's quick, the fact that it's easy to get on the table and teach, the fact that it's a nice, interesting drafting selection and building up your little thing, the tile selection, is entertaining. Rating this is kind of difficult because it's got a lot of decent things going for it, but there's also a lot of things going against it, and it's hard. I feel like this needs 2 ratings, you know, one for families and one for myself and other gamers, and they're both different in how I'm going to award things. Now, I feel that, yes, it's got good duration, good ease of play, aesthetics issues in some areas, but generally quite colourful. But the fact that there's only so much in the tactics and the scoring is just completely broken from what I can see, I do feel that for a final rating, I personally need to give this a 6 out of 10, just shy of the 7. But I would accept that this could rise up to a 7 out of 10 if you are predominantly just family gamers. So casual, you don't have many games, you're not looking to have a massive collection, you just want something nice and light, easy and colourful that you can play with the kids, and you don't really care too much about the scoring issues, then yeah, this could be a 7 out of 10 for you, and I recommend you at least give it a try. It is free on Tabletopia if you want to try it, and so if you're thinking about, let me try it on there before I shell out the cash, try it on there first. So that's it for me. You know, thank you for watching this video. I'll be interested to see what your comments are about the opinion on this one. You know, did it work better for you? Do you agree with some of the balancing issues or not? But, you know, if you like what you see, then please subscribe to the channel, the Patreon. I'm pushing for 10,000 subscribers. We're almost there. I mean, another 380 odd subscribers and I hit 10,000. That'll be a milestone and a half. But, you know, even if you can't and you're already subscribed, then just continue watching it. Give the support. It's all really appreciated, guys, especially during COVID times. So that's it from me. I'll see you on the next Broken Meeple video. And regardless of whether you like trains or not, how can you like trains? It's still only a game. So whatever I say, what does it matter? Take care. See you soon.